everyone. Welcome to the Rocking Dev Workshop. I am Sam. If you are unfamiliar, I am the... Oh. That makes sense. Hold on a second. All right, hello everyone. I'm Sam. If you don't know me, Workshop Coordinator here at Rocking Dev. So the last Wednesday of every month from 7 to approximately 9, but whenever we end, we hold a workshop that is hosted by one of our community members. Today we have Carly, and she'll introduce herself during her workshop. So in about a week, so the first Wednesday of every month, Rock Game Dev also hosts a workshop, or a non-workshop, in this room, same time, same place, for project sharing and networking called the RIT Meetup. We also host other events like the Social, which is the third Saturday of every month, which is at a varying, typically downtown location, as well as other events at our downtown space at Sibley Square. You can find all of that information and a lot more about the team and the organization itself, Rock Game Dev, at rockgamedev.com. You can also find us on Discord, Facebook, Twitter, etc., and so on. If you have any ideas for future workshops that you would like to get some feedback on, or if you're interested in hosting something, please feel free to reach out to me after tonight's workshop. I'd love to talk with you. But with that brief spiel, I'd like to hand it off to Carly.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carly. So I have a presentation. I just want to start this. I do have a presentation. I'm probably not going to follow it too closely. It's kind of old, and I'm not sure it's super exactly what this crowd is looking for. So I'm going to be throwing stuff up there, but feel free to ignore because I'm just going to talk. I'm going to kind of keep this pretty casual because we're kind of a manageable size here. Usually, like, we'd be talking to like 100 people, but I feel like I can maybe use more time to talk to people individually about their own projects afterwards and stuff. So maybe I'll talk for like a half an hour about generalities and then, get more specific with the stuff that you guys are working on and like any questions that you have from your side. So also thank you for coming. I understand that this is not super fun for most people in game dev. So marketing and PR is really interesting to me. I find it fascinating. I understand that not a lot of people do because they're very focused on their projects and their games and things like that. And you kind of pour your blood, sweat, and tears into that. This is kind of all like very often left to the side and like last minute. It's like, okay, my game's ready to launch. Let's come up with a marketing plan. And so I kind of want to talk to you today about that, and that don't do that. Marketing plans, again, the short answer is it's never too early to start developing your marketing and PR plans. But again, it depends how early you are into a project. So it's hard to say because everything is so individual to the project that you're working on. So while I'm talking in generalities, usually like there's no one size fit all for any of this stuff for any game or any project that you're working on that you're hoping to push to market. So just keep that in mind while I say a lot of stuff, that some of the stuff may not be applicable to what you're working on right now or what you'll be working on in the future or anything like that. So that's why I kind of want to leave more time at the end to talk to people specifically so they can tell me about their thing. And I would love to hear you guys tell me about your games because that's going to inform me, kind of where you are in your marketing plan. So I'm looking forward to doing that because it's very nerve-wracking to give someone an elevator pitch. My name is Carly. I work at Evolve PR, which is a Canadian company. I actually used to live in Canada up until about 3-4 months ago. I just moved here because my husband is American, and I came down here to be with them. So I have a lot of clients, and I've worked on a lot of games. I've been at Evolve for almost 3 years now, and it's a PR marketing agency specifically focused on video games, which means there is a lot coming at you at once, and I manage up to like 5 or 6 or 7 clients all at once. Right now, so these are like some of the stuff I worked on in the past. Right now, one of my biggest client would be Sega and Atlas. So I am currently working on, we are the external PR agency, so we're not doing everything, but the Yakuza remasters, we did Yakuza 2 that came out last year, Valkyria Chronicles, I'm working on some stuff for the new Persona remaster that's coming out. So this is just like some of the, like, there's hundreds of them. I can name them. And like, these are some of the big ones, but I've also worked on a lot of indie games. So a lot of really small scope stuff. So if you ever want to talk afterwards, like about the kind of stuff that I've worked on or how that relates to your projects, I'm happy to do that. Yeah, so I guess I want to start off with this by asking you guys on average, and this is stats from last year, how many games do you think launch on Steam every week? Yeah. Huh? Yeah. So this is old data, so that's 183 games over a 7-year period, over 50, oh God, I'm gonna get this wrong, 52 weeks in a year. That is a lot of games. So here's some stuff about how that has increased since 2013. In a year, that was 536 games. Last year, there was 7,489. So it nearly doubles every single year, which means in the end, you've got a lot of competition. And that's where kind of PR and marketing comes in, because that'll help you kind of cut through a lot of that. Now, it's not going to get you everything, but you know, having a solid marketing and PR plan is going to help you kind of lay the foundation to get more exposure, to find the right people to talk to, and things like that. So when I say it's never too early to start talking about your marketing and comms plans and things like that, that's what I mean. You are up against so many games, and in the end, why should they be talking about yours? They've got a ton of them, and in that there's a lot of AAA games. So why should they be focusing on your game? That's what marketing and comms comes in, because it helps you isolate what is good about your game, what you want to be talking about, and what you want to highlight to be able to kind of sell it in the best way possible. So again, not all of these slides are going to pertain to everything we're talking about right now, but one thing I did want to cover is my style of PR and my company in specific. We are not very business speaky, if that makes sense. So we are very casual in our approach, and we aim to be very genuine. And this is kind of something I believe strongly in that the games that we work on, we really care about, and I care about like every single game, every single client that I'm working with. And it means that you want to be approaching PR and marketing and the way that you talk to people in a very human way. So the people you're talking to may be people that you want to pitch to, journalists, whatever, influencers, etc. But they're still people, and the more you come off corporate and like kind of cheesy, like people pick up on that. So I approach it in a very genuine way. Like I try to get to know people. I try to figure out why the person I'm talking to is the best person to talk about a certain project. Because I know that X person really likes roguelike RPGs that are set in dystopian setting, that et cetera, et cetera. So I try to get hyper specific with the people that I talk to about any one kind of game, because those are the people that are going to be interested in the game. You know, you don't want to waste your time and waste their time trying to pitch your game if, you know, it turns out you've not done your research. They only cover mobile, and you're trying to pitch, you know, a console. So that's where doing your research comes in handy. So like really finding the right people to talk about your game to is critical. And then doing your marketing plan and figuring out what your game is kind of feeds into that. So, which leads into building relationships. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to talk about this stuff. So I can't get into specifics with things, and I don't want to like mention people or anything like that, but like the people that I reach out to, I don't just send them cold emails, or like try to slide into their DMs. Like I try to build a relationship with people. I figure out what they're interested in, you know, outside of gaming, because, you know, they have personal lives too, and maybe we have common interests. So like I'm going to Japan soon. And so I find out this other writer is going to Japan or just been, and you know, like I'm asking for recommendations and stuff like that. But it's just in the way that you build your personal relationships, you do the same thing this way. So Okay, so that, so very traditional PR is very reliant on press releases. That's just writing about your game, putting it out there, sending it to thousands, hundreds, whatever press. I don't rely on that anymore, only because, again, you're coming across very cold. You're coming across sending this stuff to people that don't care about this kind of thing. And old, PR used to really heavily rely on that, but there wasn't a lot of competition, so they had the chance to cover all this stuff coming in because there was nothing else. Now, they're getting, 8,000 plus emails in a year? Like, they're just gonna, not necessarily ignore, but like, why should they open your thing and take a look at your thing? Because you've built a relationship with them. And so they know if something is coming from you, they're like, oh, okay, now I can pay attention because I have a connection with this person. And that will drive them to more interest than they would have had just by getting something, even if it's something that they're interested in the end. So yeah, that's kind of like the start of what I want to talk about, is just being an actual human, and doing your research. So say you're like, okay, I really want to end up, I'm going to throw out something, on IGN. Now, that's a pretty lofty goal. IGN covers a lot of pop culture and movies and a lot of AAA gaming. So you want to pick the right outlet to be able to talk to. So maybe that's not your best bet. Maybe somewhere a little bit smaller that is hyper-focused on the type of gaming that you are producing is the right place. So it's I can't stress it enough how much to do your research. And this can be by combing through Twitter, looking at people's accounts, coming through websites and finding out the kind of content that a specific person produces, and then reaching out early, because if you reach out early, you have that time to build up that relationship. So yeah. See, a lot of these I'm probably not gonna. So, and I guess I should talk, PR and marketing, while they work hand in hand, aren't exactly the same thing. Your marketing is the thing you do before to set the beats and the activities and everything you want to do before, and then PR is how you talk about that to people. So I work in PR, but I also do a lot of marketing as well. So it's, I'm just trying to figure out which slides to be able to use. I feel like a lot of the insights that I'm going to be able to produce is going to be coming from questions that you guys have. So I don't want to actually spend too much time on this, because I think it'd be a little bit better to talk about how I can help based on the questions that you guys have. Because this stuff generally just covers all the stuff that I've talked about. It just kind of breaks down everything. So I don't actually know how much time I want to spend on all this. And you know what? No, I think I'd rather take some questions right now if you guys have any. Nothing yet. Yes.
So a lot of the teams that I personally see or work with or have worked on are small student teams with limited resources, limited folks to work on things, but also time and money. What specific action items produce the most bang for their buck if a small team is just looking to do a little bit of marketing?
Developing those personal relationships with the people that you're hoping to, talk to about your game and get the word out about your game. So whether that's press, whether that's people on Twitch, whether that's YouTubers and stuff like that, it can be a little bit difficult because you're coming in cold. So, it's a little bit hard for that first reception and everything, but if you keep trying, it's not impossible to build those kind of relationships. And finding the common ground with them to be able to, get a little bit closer and talk about your game and things like that is kind of probably the best bet. Now, that's why I suggest starting early and doing your research, finding the right person to talk about your game is, I think, if you take nothing else away from that, that is one of the key ones. So like going onto websites and reading the past couple months of a single person and finding out what they're interested in to see if that's the right person is a really good way to do that. And the more you do it, the more you're going to automatically know the people to go to. So you kind of build up this base based on people's interests the longer you do it. And that's kind of what I do too. And so if I know that there is a certain type of game, I know the right person to talk to because I know they're interested in that kind of game. Yeah, that's kind of where I would start. But coming up with marketing plans is kind of something else I wanted to talk to. Again, I just want to keep this casual. I like don't even want to use the thing that I'm. Well, it's kind of old and out of date. And okay, so let's start with marketing plans then. So a marketing plan is the thing that you use to be able to figure out when you should be talking about a game, when you should be quiet about a game, and what you can do to grab attention. So what I normally do when I'm starting to develop a marketing plan, I mean, you guys all know your games very intimately, but me, say, coming in cold to a game, I play the game a lot. I figure out what I like about it, what I think other people will like about it, and I start developing an elevator pitch. So hopefully everyone knows what an elevator pitch is? No? Okay. So an elevator pitch is a short, like 3 to 4 sentence paragraph that you can like route memorize. So when someone says, hey, what's your game about? You say, hey, my game is a, so here's an example. My husband and I actually just published a board game. So our game is a cooperative card game with drinking rules that you take on the persona of one of X number of characters and you go to defeat a boss. So like something really small, really concise, really something that you can memorize without it sounding like you're just reading off of a script is really useful, because if you don't know how to talk about your game, no one else does. You're the one that knows it best. So writing many of these and picking out the best versions of them is the first place to start. And finding other people like to read this and like practice it before you have to take it to people that are going to have heard hundreds of them in the past is a really good idea. So, write your very small thing, practice it a bunch of times, say it to other people, refine it. You're never gonna get it right the first time you do it. It's always gonna be at least a little bit off, and this is something even that I do. Like I rewrite these all the time, because all of a sudden, a certain part of the gameplay has changed, and I'm like, okay, no, but that's the part I want to talk about, because that's the part I think people are interested in. Or, and then drop stuff that maybe isn't as applicable or isn't as interesting. But if you need to write and rewrite this thing over and over again, that's fine. These usually kind of evolve over time, even until you get past launch or past marketing, or when it goes to market or anything like that. So yeah, yeah.
With regards to building relationships, are you specifically talking about streamers or influencers, or individuals from press outlets?
Both.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. They're the way that I approach either of them might be a little bit different, just because there is definitely different. One person is doing this, and that is their job. That has they work at a company. They are on a contract, so you have to, they tend to be a little bit more formal. For the most part, there's a bunch of them that I'm just I can swear in front of, and that's totally fine. But I wouldn't necessarily approach someone like that right from the start. But yeah, it could be either of them. And if you really want to get in with an influencer, or someone on a streamer or a YouTuber and stuff, comment on their stuff, go to their streams, start talking to them through there. They may not have time to talk to you, but at least there's some name recognition at that point. And just kind of keep trying, but keep trying in a way that you find common ground, find interest, like they want to talk to you because they're having fun talking to you. It's just giving a person a reason. It's just like making friends, which is very hard as an adult now, I'm realizing, is, you know, just why should they waste their time or use their time doing something for you? Like, is generally what I kind of approach it as, is like being superhuman, like, I'm just a person, but we both like this thing, so let's talk about this thing, is kind of how I approach it that way. Now, like, again, there's no one size fits all for anything, but that's kind of where I start as my basis. But yeah, okay, so marketing plans. So generally the way that I do this, it helps if you know what general like launch window you have for your game, because that will inform you how long you have to develop this thing, how long, where you can stick in certain beats that will make sense, and where you can go a little bit quieter because it doesn't make sense for you to talk about your game when you're suddenly doing a rehaul of something and, you know, you're not necessarily ready to talk about that thing. So I start with the launch date of the game. So say you're going to try to push it out on Steam and get it officially out there to everyone in a year. So I'd start from a year and work my way backwards up until this point. One thing that I would caution is really look at where other games are launching, because there's a lot of really big games coming out. Like, there's no quiet period anymore. There's a game nearly every week, and it's always a huge game, so it's very difficult. But find out when those massive games are launching, and then I try to avoid it, because I know people are gonna be focused on this one thing. So why would I'm not gonna try to compete against that, because I know what the reception is, I know what the hype for it is right now. I know the people that are gonna be talking about it are gonna be busy. So I'm like, okay, well, within this window, we don't need to do anything. We can just run our social media accounts, build up the community, and like in those dark periods, that's a really good time for you to try to build your social media. So, and that is kind of something we can talk about as well, is where you should be going to try to build that audience, because that audience that are engaging with you on places like Twitter, Discord, Facebook, Instagram, like those are the people that are already pretty interested in what you're doing, and like really emboldening them and supporting them is going to really help you with organic traffic and like organic interest, because then those people are talking about your game. And I mean, I'm a little bit different because I work in the video game sector, so I hear about all the games coming out. I know what's coming out, but like a lot of people aren't watching those release calendars as closely as I am. They don't necessarily know what's coming up. And so most of the games that I play on my own time that I haven't necessarily heard from my job are because people have told me that they're playing it, or that it's really good, or, you know, I'm mostly listening to my friends just to know what they're interested in. So these people, like, I always say, like, reward them for their loyalty, but like they're the ones that are there, like, from usually pretty early on. And so, like, giving them a little something extra or making sure that they feel supported is a really important thing, because, like, unless you're Final Fantasy VII or like the big AAA games, like, no one starts off with an immediate fan base. You have to build that and then support those people to keep building it. And so that's kind of where, like, the community and social media fit into marketing plans. And so when you go into those dark periods where it doesn't make sense to be putting out press releases or doing whatever, that's when you really strengthen your community and give them something extra or do something specific for them. Because that's going to help, you know, add people to Steam wish lists, which is an algorithm that they track to be able to put you on front pages. So, yeah, that's that point. I'm gonna ramble. Yes.
Do you have any examples of how you reward loyal fans?
Yeah, for sure. So giving them, say, you have made this really cool trailer and you're not ready, you're gonna show it to everyone tomorrow. Put it in your Discord channel a day early. They get to see it before everyone else. Or say you're making an RPG and in your RPG it's like clothing sets and stuff. Share a code with everyone in your Discord and reward them in that way. Like it could be really anything. You could have a really fantastic soundtrack for your game. Give them access to your soundtrack that no one else gets. There's like a lot of stuff that doesn't cost you money. It may cost a little time, doesn't cost you money, and it means a lot to them because they've been supporting you for so long. So like it can be small things. Those are just kind of some examples, but there's like tons of stuff that you can do for them that we can like talk about afterwards if you want. Like if you want to get more specifics or whatever, I'm happy to provide some that I know I've done in the past. So marketing plans. Yes. No. Yeah, I think I'd rather answer questions here. So.
So what are some key signs that a small like indie team is ready to reach out to a firm to ask for help with this stuff?
So we recommend people reach out to us still fairly early, just because it gives us a chance to help build out your base before you get anywhere near launch. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to hire a firm a year in advance and pay them like a ton of money every single month. It may mean that you go find this whatever company, you talk to them about a lot of prep stuff, and then you go a little bit quieter, and then you have this big marketing beat that you want to get support with, then you bring them on for that as well. It's like you don't necessarily need to spend a ton of money all the time. And like you don't necessarily need to spend money at all, but if that is something that you want and you want help because you know that these people have been doing it forever and they have connections that you're hoping to use because you think your game will appeal to people that they know. I would try to bring it on fairly early. The one thing I would say is don't do it a month before launch. That isn't enough time. I mean, it can be enough time, but there's a lot of pressure then in a very short amount of time to be able to, I don't think you're gonna get the best results if you try to truncate that really, to a really short period. Like you need the time to be able to, in the breathing room, to be able to, one, let them figure out where you're missing things that you think that you didn't even think of. And maybe those things require a lot of prep. You're like, okay, I'm ready to go to launch. Do you have a trailer? Do you have a launch trailer? Well, no. Well, those things take they can take quite a bit of time to produce or, go through revisions or whatever. So, I mean, small teams, I've done stuff with a month's notice, and it's a lot of work, but it really depends on the project. It's hard to say, give a definitive number here. I would just reach out to someone and just give them the rundown, give them your elevator pitch, what your goals are. They'll be able to tell you if they think those goals are achievable, and they'll give you a little bit of information to be able to tell you how far in advance that they think that you need to kind of start or get help with.
Yeah. Is there any advice, is there any criteria that you are able to say that would rule out a small team from needing help from a firm?
It's kind of hard to say. I always feel like one team can't have everything that another team has, so no one person is going to be able to fulfill everything. But if you already know a lot of people that have a pretty big voice, so say you know a lot of people on Twitter, say your Twitter following is very big, and you know a lot of big people that can spread the word and stuff, that would really help you. Knowing journalists that you think would help cover your stuff, it's really, I think it's really based on the people that you know. And the people that you think will help bolster what you have to offer. So it's hard to say without like really talking about specifics in a case like that, but if you want to talk specifics afterwards, I can definitely do that. Okay, yes.
I know that you said that your agency is
Yes.
not so much a business, but more about the personal touch side of things.
Yeah, I mean, we are a business, but yeah, we tend to be very casual in our approach. Yeah.
Right, and I'm also not sure at how much liberty you are to discuss specifics
Yes.
of the type of question I'm interested in
Okay.
asking. But if it's the type of thing that you would see in your trade journals, I'm curious to hear more about, like, what type of metrics would a large company like Sega have for you guys as a PR firm to measure the engagement versus a smaller company, and how much do they share with the big ones? It's viable. With the smaller ones, I'm curious how much they share with you. Like, what's our viability point as a business? No go, no go in numbers we're trying to get with this effort.
Yeah, I can't really get into that too much. Like, there's a lot of stuff I can't talk about. I think, I mean, sorry, were you looking to actually like move into PR marketing and then you have like, okay.
I'm trying to understand, like, because I do come at it from a business standpoint, and like, not that I'm a soulless person, but the first thing I want to know is what's
Yeah.
the viability point, and how are we discussing what with whom and why?
Like externally or internally?
Well, and that's always the strategic question, because I know I've been in agency work too,
Yeah.
and I know that everybody's relationship is a little bit different and fluid,
Yeah.
but there's a sense of like, okay, there are strategic things we have to share with these people in order for them to do their job for us, and there are things that it would kind of help them to know too that we're not going to tell them, and one of those is things like, you know, sensitive topics like
Like
go, no
numbers
go.
and sales.
Numbers of viability and how you're measuring yourselves on that.
Now, I would say, so anyone that you hire that is externally outside your company is going to be under an NDA in a contract. So there is, like, if they were to share any of that stuff, then there would be legal recourse.
Right.
So I would say that the people that you get to bring in, if they don't know that stuff, it makes their job a lot harder.
Right.
So they don't necessarily know what you're looking for, what they need to achieve to be able to make you happy, or you know, what constitutes a win. So if you've got like a solid legal contract, I mean, me personally, if I get a client and they're coming in, I want to know everything I can about that game, because you know, it'll help me figure out if we should be talking to the video game businesses or business outlets or stuff like that, because they've got like a really fantastic number here that we should be sharing. Or
Quick second?
Yeah.
Because I think listening to you talk about that part of it, which is sort of how I set it up, helped me understand what I think my question really
Okay.
is. Which is, can you talk a little bit about what variables go into what's considered your conversion rate? Any business
Okay.
is doing anything marketing
Yeah.
has something, they have some kind of step-by-step way of assigning, this is what we think it means at this point in the pipeline, and what is
Yeah.
the conversion rate?
That's very technical. Wow. I wasn't expecting to have to get that deep with. Okay. So there is, and like this is not any one client. This is just kind of me like spitballing. Is a certain amount of reach. So the outlets that you want to hit have a certain amount of reach. And so say they want a certain number of reach, then you need to be able to find the outlets that can help you boost those numbers to get that reach. So reach is a little bit wishy-washy because this is always an average estimated reach that any one outlet gets, like what IGN gets or what GameSpot gets or whatever like that. So it's but you can track those things, like there's like SimilarWeb and stuff like that. They will tell you the engagement of a website. So you can use, I think it's similarweb.com, and go on there, look up a website, see what their traffic is, and see, you know, like, okay, they've reached a certain threshold of people that go to their site that I think it would be really great to get on there. I would definitely use that. And you can, this also helps when people proactively reach out to you, and this will happen a lot, that people hear about your game and they're either press or they're people streaming or whatever, and they will reach out to you to ask if you have any codes available for them to review or for them to try. Stuff like SimilarWeb will be able to tell you, not necessarily influencers, but press, it'll be able to tell you how much reach that is estimated that they have, and how many people you think you might hit if you get an article up on their site. There's a bunch of Twitch and, not necessarily YouTube, but a lot of Twitch and Mixer add-on tools that you can get to, that pull stats from influencers to be able to tell you like how many people usually come to their stream, how many people are looking at their clips, how many people, you know, are engaging with them on any social media platform or things like that, and be able to kind of tell you where they sit and how much reach you think that they will get if they were to play your game one night. Yeah. I'm gonna start talking again. No? Okay. So marketing plans. So we talked about developing it from the time you think you're gonna launch to the time that it is now. Basically, you always want people to be talking about your game in some way, whether that is in your community and bolstering your community, whether that is you put out news there to get picked up by a site or things like that. You always want to be people to be talking about your game, because as soon as they don't, something else replaces it. So, you know, making sure that you're getting news out, that you're putting out like development roadmaps are a big thing, especially with communities. They want to make sure that you're working on the game even post-launch, that so they know that more things are coming, that you're supporting your game, that you believe in your game, that you want to keep working on your game. Like that helps kind of, you know, support them to be like, oh, okay, this person believes in their game, they have big things coming, I should stick with it. Because, you know, someone could play your game at launch, play for a couple hours, or finish, say it's short, they finish it, it's gone. It's in their Steam library. They will literally never look at it again for a lot of it. So by putting out constant news and things like that, it helps push it to the top of their minds. I mean, oh yeah, I should revisit that. Oh, actually they're getting a big update. Maybe I should go back in. And it's, oh, they just got multiplayer. I gotta tell a friend, get my friend to get the game, you know, et cetera. Like, so you're always kind of pushing it up the ladder, because it goes down, like, there's so much news out there, and like if you just go to any, like literally whatever websites you guys use, like track a thing over a day and see how far an article gets pushed down the page, like it's crazy. So yeah, that's where the marketing timeline kind of comes in, to keep pushing it back into people's, you know, vision. So I think that it makes more sense talking to people individually about what kind of things you could do inside that marketing timeline, but you know, a general, like producing videos, producing development diaries for you to be talking about your game, showing off the new things that you're working on, and things like that. Now, I do want to preface development diaries. Take time with them, because this is like, treat them as you would like any video asset that you want to get into, you know, people's vision. You know, make sure there's production quality. Like, it doesn't take a lot these days, that you can get like a pretty inexpensive camera or borrow a camera, do a setup with a couple points of lighting, and like that's enough. But you sitting in front of a webcam is a lot less tenable to people watching these kind of things than something produced. Like if you think about it, just what you guys would watch, produce something that you would watch in the end, and make them interesting, you know, just, and also, if there's one person on the team that is a little bit more eloquent and maybe, you know, they're a little bit more bubbly, because I know a lot of video game developers. Not everyone is suited to go in front of a camera and talk about this kind of thing. And like, that's fine, but you know, this is part of isolating your strengths. Find the people that are really good at that, because they're gonna be the ones that are engaging to other people. So finding the right people on your team, or that you can work with to be able to talk to people is a big one. But yeah, so videos, like coming up with, okay, I'm gonna say this word and someone's gonna be like, it's not that anymore, but GIFs? Is it GIFs or GIFs? I hate GIFs, but I will say it if that's the right thing. Okay, or GIFs or screenshots or like really good concept art or, you know, whatever. Or it's like, oh, this cosplayer really likes our game and they made this awesome costume. Okay, well, let's see if we can get them to come to one of our events, like, and, you know, pay for their travel to a place or something like that. Like, it could be literally anything that you think people would be interested in, but really analyze it in a way that, like, would you be interested in that? Because that's going to be a really good barometer for if other people are going to be interested in it. Just doing something for the sake of doing something is not worth your time. Only do it if you think it actually will make an impact. If you think that it's interesting, that you think people are going to talk about it, or, you know, or if you think it bolsters your community or whatever. Like, make sure that there is an end goal for whatever you're doing. But yeah, we'll kind of talk about that, you know, one-on-one kind of thing afterwards. Yes.
So let's say a point where I've got a new game rolling out, not publishing game, just starting.
Yeah.
And I've got some art, I've got some gifts, I've got maybe a demo we can play.
Yeah.
But I don't foresee maybe funding in the future for hiring a marketing
Yeah.
firm. But I want to start doing things in parallel with development anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, is that essentially community growth? Like, is that the main thing to focus on?
Yes, I would say yes. Like, finding those grassroots people that are really interested in your game is probably the best bet that you want to do right then. And I'm not saying you have to spend money on a marketing person or a PR person or anything like that. Like, lots of people do it themselves. It's just whether you feel comfortable in doing it and whether you think that that's like the best direction of your game. But yeah, starting that stuff, I would say really start up your communities. Try to find other communities that have similar products and talk to them there to pull them into your community as well. Just because people are fans of one thing doesn't mean that they can't also be fans of your thing. It's not a one of the other thing here. Like, you're not poaching people, you're also getting them interested in your thing. They're still gonna like that other thing, but now they're also gonna like your thing. So finding the right Discords to be in, the right Twitter accounts and things like that. If you have other developers that you've worked with in the past, or you know other developers that have a decent social media following or anything, like if you're close to them or anything like that, talk about how they can help. They like do a tweet that doesn't cost them anything and say, you know, would you really mind, would you promote, you know, X or something? Like, we can do cross promotion, we can do whatever. But that's, again, building those relationships to be able to help you. It's not just press or people that are like on the journalism or whatever side. It's also fellow developers, because they are also a little bit more sympathetic because they also go through this thing and they've had to do it from scratch as well. So just really talking to every single person that you can at that point. And like, once you have like a base following, like that's when you can kind of start boosting that kind of thing. We can talk about social media ad purchasing. It's really dry in my opinion. I don't particularly love talking about it, but that is also an avenue that you can do. Twitter or Facebook. I can't remember which ones usually perform better, but I could probably look that up at some point. But yeah.
Quick follow-up. Do marketing firms and maybe even publishers, do they look at your community engagement there? Does that like sweeten the deal for them at all? Like, I guess would that impress upon?
Yes. Absolutely. Twitter following and things like that, people will definitely look at those numbers, and if you have something impressive, that it definitely is impressive, because it means then you have enough of a community base, and that community base is the one that's buying your game. It's not the influencers, it's not the press, they're not buying your game, you're giving them free copies, but the community is the one that's buying your game, and that's usually what they care about. They care about how many sales you're gonna get. You know, it's more a numbers game for them than it is for you. So if they see, oh, they've got a pretty big community, they're growing bigger and bigger, you know, that's going to translate to sales, then that is definitely something that we look at. Yeah.
is what is a better social media platform for, promoting, project, game, product?
It depends, I guess, what your goal is. So, you mean like social media ad buying and stuff? Or you mean like just talk?
Is
engaging.
Instagram better for exposure than Twitter for trying to promote and sell a game that you've released?
They're,
Facebook
I mean, they're all very different, and it depends on the game, because, so Facebook skews to an older demographic, so if there is a game that skews older, Facebook might be the place to do it. So I know like a lot of mobile stuff ends up going to Facebook. Twitter ends up being a lot younger, just inherently, so.
A lot of phone games on Instagram.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of phone games, or mobile games on Instagram.
That bad Iron Maiden one.
I got that one too. The best thing for social media and buying stuff like that is do small tests. So you're going to create wow, I don't really want to get in the weeds with this because it can get super technical, but like create small audiences, spend a small amount of money and see how well they do, and then pump more money into that, like the ones of those that does well. Because each audience is going to respond differently, like actually watch your stuff or actually click on stuff than others. So you can, with all of these platforms, you can set up the type of audience you want to promote to, and that'll give you a pretty good indication for where you should be doing something like a bigger spend. And like, you don't need to spend a ton of money on this stuff to get, if you're hyper targeting your audience and getting the right people, you don't necessarily need to spend a ton of money. Yeah.
So, taking this back a step.
Yes.
So, what kind of avenues are available to someone like me who's never really, built a relationship with influencers,
Mhm.
who's never really built a relationship with PR firms? How do I even go about starting to navigate that space? What kind of environments do I find these people in, and how do I make a relationship with them?
So specifically influencers or press?
And or
Okay, so they exist in two very different places. So press exists on their websites and things like that, and the influencers place exists on their platforms. So again, there's kind of no easy way to do it except start following these people and doing the research to find the right people to be able to find the person that's going to be interested in your game. And not everyone is, and maybe a site has 50 people employed on it, maybe 1 or 2 people would be interested in your game, but you have to do the legwork to find those 1 or 2 people. And that just means going on a site and searching for, say, competitive games to yours, or stuff that meets a lot of the same requirements. Look up who's talking about those other games, because they may actually be interested in your game as well. Figuring out, so there is something called a SWOT analysis, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So this is a good way to look at your game and figure out what falls into each category. So strengths being what is the thing your game does best, and it could be a multitude of things, or it could be one specific thing. So are really good, because there's a lot of people out there, especially with pixel animation, that love really good pixel animation. So you can find those people that are really interested in that thing, and maybe that's your selling point. You can find people that are really interested in music, and maybe you have a really good soundtrack. It's finding those very specific things about your game that are your biggest selling points. Threats being what is the other games launching around the same time that you need to be aware of. So and maybe it's you choose a different launch window so you're not competing against these other games because they already have a bunch of buzz. Okay, well then let's shift it a month or 2 in either direction, so you don't have to run up against them and then compete for the same space on any site. Opportunities being who is, again, a lot of what I've been talking about is who is the best person for this, finding that right person and making sure you get connected with them. And then weaknesses, I think everyone can figure out. And So this is a thing that's really hard for people to do, is to critically look at their game and figure out what is the weaknesses in it and self-correct. And if you can't do that, find someone who can. And so RIT and the Magic, like there's a ton of people here that could do that for you, and like if you could do it for them. But it's being really honest with yourself, because people, once you put it in other people's hands, they'll find that right away. Like, and all of a sudden you put out this game that now they're just talking about this one thing that you're like, oh, well, I know, but that's not my strength, so I couldn't, like, well, spend more time trying to improve that thing. Find another person that can help improve that thing. And that's kind of especially why I say bring marketing in early, is because you're going to be able to isolate those weaknesses really early on. And then, maybe you find someone else in the community who's really good at that thing, and then you work together. Or you add things to your game that suddenly make it really interesting, or you bring in another person who has this idea that makes it really interesting. But you're not going to do that a month before launch. You're going to do that a year before launch, or a year and a half, 2 years before launch. So being really critical, so I say this in that if you want it to sell well and if you want it to review well, a lot of people don't care about that. A lot of people just want to make a game that's really true to themselves, that they really love, and then put it out there and move on to the next thing. I'm specifically talking about like the marketing and PR, specifically the PR side of that, to try to get you the best reviews, to get the best reception once you have it in the hands of a bunch of people who have no idea who you are and do not care about your feelings whatsoever. That's where everyone that is that person exists on the internet, and they exist on Steam forums. So it's disheartening, but really finding those weaknesses really early on and correcting is going to give you a much better game in the end. So that's kind of what marketing does for you super early on. Yeah.
I have another question
Yeah.
from the chat. What's the best way to find leads on social media? Is it worth spending time scraping and finding people in your game's niche and liking their posts, or is it better to just advertise to those people with targeted ads?
Okay, if you want to look at it anecdotally, I don't read any ads on social media. And in my, I do it for my work. When I'm in time, as soon as I see a promoted post, I'm by it. And that's not everyone. Some people really find a really good niche, and maybe this stuff isn't being correctly targeted to my account or something like that. But, sorry, what was the original question?
The question is, what's the best way to find leads on social media?
Yes, okay, yes. And so I do this in my job. I go to see who is talking about a game via the search or hashtag or anything like that, and I scrape Twitter, because a lot of people won't talk about it in emails, and especially a lot of influencers, you can try emailing them 10 times. Most of the time you'll never get a response. But that is because they're streaming, they're not checking their emails. They will check social media because they could take 5 minutes of your day, scroll through Twitter, be done with it. But finding the right way to contact people is also a big thing. Should you be emailing them? Should you be following them on social media and figuring out how to get in contact with them on social media? Some people are going to be more receptive to one or the other. Another point that I kind of wanted to make is don't pester people. Be respectful of their time. If they don't get back to you after a couple emails, try again in maybe half a year. But don't be that person who's just hey, did you get my email? Hey, did you get my email? Hey, you haven't responded. Did you get my email? No one wants that. That's super annoying. So it's very likely if they haven't gotten back to you, they may have not read your email, or they may have not seen your post or whatever, or they may have been ugh. But that's their prerogative. So don't pester people. But yeah, I scrape Twitter all the time, because there's a lot of people talking about stuff in there that maybe have never responded to an email, or everyone that I work with does the same thing, and we send people, we're oh, this person was talking about this game that you're working on, and pass them that way. And it happens a lot, because a lot of the big guys don't have time to answer emails, but they'll talk about it on social media because they also need a following on social media and content to put on social media, so they're talking about this thing. Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to like the visual nature of marketing and promoting, should you wait until you have more like graphically impressive scenes to show off, since you don't really have like people's options to interact with it, unless you like publish like some sort of playable demo?
In regards to that, it depends. So say you have a game that has amazing mechanics, amazing gameplay, the visuals are, I would put out, like as long as you can get it on social media, like put out GIFs of that really cool mechanic. I wouldn't necessarily recommend stills at that point, but like if you can showcase this really cool thing about your game in one really short GIF, like whether the visuals are impressive or not, that's still gonna be impressive, and some people are really gonna be like respond to that kind of thing.
I also wanted to ask about the entertainment software ratings board,
Yes.
ETMAO. How soon, this might be unrelated like marketing, but sort of a part like, marketing edge, how soon should you get your game rated? I've heard that if you publish your game on something like Steam, there have been developers that have been fined because they did not go through the ESRB before publishing their product. So
Yeah, I would always say do it before. Like you can, as long as you get a response within like a week of publishing, you're fine. It's just, I'm not sure what the wait time for ratings are at the moment.
and PEGI and
Yeah, in the European, yeah.
Because people have been like, they've been fined.
Oh yeah. It doesn't hurt to get your game rated, like even if it's, you still have bug fixes to do before you get it live, or you still want to do some kind of graphical update or a patch at launch or whatever. Like
Would it cost money?
that I don't know. That's a good question. I've never personally had to get a game rated because all my clients do that themselves.
I think it might be non-profit.
Could be.
Might be.
I don't know. Yes.
I apologize if you covered this already.
No.
because I was a little late. This might be more PR marketing, PR community.
Yeah.
But how do you handle, because games design by its nature is iterative, and
Yeah.
you could be starting marketing pretty early. If you have a piece of information that's revealed and gets people really excited, but then changes through the iteration, how do you handle that? How do you communicate it to people? Or what do you recommend in terms of, do you try to avoid revealing too much because you're trying to protect iteration, or do you reveal it and then be transparent, or what do you recommend?
So I would say, why are you changing that thing if a lot of people are excited about it?
Right, that's a good point.
So I think that like talking about a thing doesn't hurt. If you need to change things, you're always going to be aiming to change it for the better, right? So your messaging at that point, like even if you need to, you had these lofty goals and you were gonna your game is gonna have multiplayer. It's getting closer and closer to when you want to launch, and you have to launch because say you've got investors that need you to launch within a certain time frame, but you cannot get multiplayer working. I would say be transparent. Just say, hey, we are working on it. This is something that we're going to be implementing in the game, like whatever that thing is. And like make your community aware that you are committed to doing this thing that you promised to deliver on. And like as long as you're transparent with people and being upfront and honest, I mean, they're gonna get upset because it's the internet, but at least at that point you've done some damage control to let them know that this kind of came out of nowhere or was out of your control, but we're still trying, because we know you want it, we're still trying to make it work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
One modification I would make, I realized I could have clarified
Yeah.
earlier, was that, so like an example of multiplayer is sort of like a scoping up, scoping down sort of thing, but there could also be a sort of changing direction
Yeah.
to perhaps that idea sounded really good on paper and
Yeah.
really good at marketing,
Yeah.
but in practice it actually fought against your design pillars, and there's some tough trade-offs you have to make, and then move in a slightly different direction that makes that feature or idea
Yeah, or-
viable.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that does happen. I would say, like your biggest, like if that's one of your big selling points of the game is like, oh, this cool thing. again, it happens. I would try to make sure, and I think there was a talk about production a couple weeks ago, but that kind of falls under the purview of production. Like, you're able to kind of isolate that early on in your production pipeline, so hopefully you don't run into something like that, but it does happen, and you just kind of like gotta, like, eat it, I guess. Like, if people were really excited about it, they were really excited about it, and you just have to, like, okay, then give them something else that they've been talking about that they were excited about that you can implement. You're like, okay, well, we can't get multiplayer working because the servers, blah, 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 blah. But we know that you've been really wanting to introduce this character class, so we're going to work really hard to make sure that that's included. Yeah.
When it comes to like public exhibiting
Yes.
and merchandise,
Yeah.
there's going to be a rock game fest on 5th of October, so it's like coming up. So
I'm going to be in that. We're doing our board game. Yes, merchandise and being in person.
About, like,
Yeah.
something about like posters or what's a
Like visibility or?
visibility and still forgot my question. It has something to do with like should I commission a bunch of keychains or something and hand them out to people? Posters, cards.
It depends on what you think you're going to use it for. So if you're going to like an event and stuff like that, depends if it falls in your budget. I mean, okay, anecdotally, we produced this video game for this board game. We made like, because it's partly a drinking game, you can make, we produced like all these glasses and stuff like that. And like, we found people have been really receptive to that. They really like that kind of thing. So we did it, but not everyone is gonna be interested in that. It just happens that our audience is. So that's where you kind of figure out what your audience is looking for, because are they the type of people to, and like if you guys want to talk about going to live events, like anything like that, I've done tons of those. So happy to answer any questions about that. But if you're going to an event and you're competing with a lot of other booths that also have impressive games and stuff like that, people love free stuff. So if they hear, oh, that place is giving away blah, there's a good chance that if no one else is doing it, they're going to come by at least just to get that, and then you try to pull them in based on other factors, you know.
I also wanted to ask, since, are you still working for Evolve VR?
Yeah.
Do you offer services
Yeah.
of any kind of like marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally, but we do through my company. So like, I
Heard
can,
that you were,
I'm not like trying to shop my company here. Yeah, but if you want like business, I got business cards, but like,
Is it just like consulting or is it like active, you know?
we do both. We pretty much do everything. Yeah,
Right.
Yep.
So you can like help promote.
yes, yeah,
Alright.
yes.
So just actually jumping off the point about exhibiting, one of my courses was I always hand out stickers for free.
Yeah.
But that's a very me-based thing. Like I did the whole band thing, and
Yeah.
bands tend to always hand out stickers for free.
Yeah.
So I hate paying for stickers, and I don't really do it. But that's like each to everyone, you know, each to their own. But then I sell pretty much everything else. So I think it's nice to have something for free, but then, you know, it
Yeah.
forces people to maybe buy something.
So,
Do you need a permit for that?
no, no.
Wow.
No, I don't think any event would require you to have anything like that.
Unless you're crossing.
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, maybe if you're doing cross in like international or anything like that.
So like if, ask it for like $20 and give it exchange.
Now, one thing I want to talk about, like items and things like that, is not feel free, but I would suggest like actually finding artists outside of your game that you can commission for certain things to produce that kind of thing if you don't think that you can, because and this is maybe something that like personal that I like, but I like stuff that I can use every day. If someone gives me like something that is just like gonna go in the garbage, like it'll just go in the garbage for me. But if you give me like a really nice pen that's got your stuff. I'm like, oh, sweet, I can use a pen every day. Or I need a new water bottle. Oh, sweet, there's a water bottle. But if it's just like a keychain that's okay, I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? And this kind of comes back to everything that I keep talking about. It's like, what do you want? Do you want this thing that you've produced? Like, if someone gave it to you, would you want it? Is a good barometer. And like, ask other people, always ask outside opinion, because you kind of zero in and get really focused on your own thing that you may not see outside of that sphere, but other people, like everyone else outside of you exists outside of that sphere. So they'll be able to give you like a better, wider opinion than maybe necessarily that you can. Yeah. I don't know what time it is. Oh, wow, it's 8. I talked for way longer than I thought I would. Yeah, yes.
Also implied in what you were saying before about starting early and kind of keeping people engaged long term. The assumption there is that you're kind of metering out information piece
Yep.
by piece. But there's also a finite, depending on your game,
Yeah.
there's a finite amount of information
Yes.
you give, especially if you have a narrative game or something,
Yeah.
you want to know these
Yeah.
details. What are some non-information revealing, I don't know the right way to say that, non-information revealing ways to engage your audience or excite people, to break up those kind of
Yeah.
reveals?
Especially on Twitter, GIFs and short videos do very well. So if you can just capture, like, I'm not talking about like produced trailers or anything like that, like just a video from your game that is like 10 seconds long that you can post natively on Twitter, those get a lot more engagement than just like posting words. Art, concept art, if you're working on anything that is not sensitive, like, but again, you'll be able to judge if you think it's interesting or not by like taking a step back and saying, is this interesting to me? Would I want to see this post? And that's kind of like the thing I do for like everything. Because if I don't think it's, and like I'm maybe way more critical just because it's what I do, but like I do that for everything. I'm like, well, would I want to see this? Well, would I want to like, is this music interesting to me? Is this visual interesting to me? Is a really good barometer to be able to tell, and then finding someone outside your sphere to be able to confirm that. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Any unique or interesting marketing strategies or I don't know, timelines that you saw, whether you helped with them or just saw in the industry?
Trying to think if there's anything I can talk about. Oh boy. I recently had worked on a game called Project Winter. That is like a co-op survival game where there's 2 people that are traders, and we actually took a bunch of like big like influencers that are playing the game, and I got to talk to them and pull out clips from all, like scrub through all their clips, find really good reaction and like funny clips, and we like made a trailer out of that stuff. So then you're also appealing to their audiences. You're getting to showcase them, to support them. Like I really like that kind of stuff because you're giving back to the people that have given you something, and it's like you're kind of like, I like the stuff that's cyclical and like goes back and forth all the time. So I super enjoyed that. Then that was a recent thing.
So it's like making a compilation of like people who play your game.
Yeah.
Because there's like, for example, my first game, there's maybe a total of 10 YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Of people playing, but like making a compilation of that.
Yeah.
And using it as-
Yeah, or just like picking out the best parts of that and like cutting it into a nice trailer set to like music or whatever. But so the one that we made, the reactions were super funny, and there's like people dying laughing and stuff like that. And like those are the kind of ones I pulled out to see like, yep, see, this game was really fun. Like these people are having a lot of fun. We're not paying them to have fun, they're just doing it. So I really enjoyed that. I mean, I got a ton of ideas. There's like a bunch of stuff that I can't really talk about, but yeah, like it's like spitballing any idea that comes to your head and then whittling it down to the best ones. You should actually, on that note, a lot of the time, I will sit down with a couple other people on my team, and we'll do a brainstorm for an hour, where we'd like literally any idea that comes to our minds about the game or tangentially related to the game or stuff, we'll just be like, blah, and then go in and refine those further and like pick out the best ones and be like, okay, no, we actually think that this is gonna be a really good marketing beat out of the hundreds that and like, 90% of them are crap, some of them are okay, but this one's really good. And like, that's the one that you usually go with and stuff. But like, getting all the bleh out is often a good idea because it helps you kind of focus in on the stuff that you think will actually work. Yeah. Oh.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
so if we want to move into one-on-one and
Yeah.
people can ask you questions
Yeah.
individually, maybe about their projects
Yeah.
that they have questions about.
Yeah.
Unless anyone has any further questions that would benefit the group to hear.
No? Here we go. Okay. I guess, yeah.
Is it ever too early to like start doing social media stuff?
I think start when you have something to talk about. Like, hey, I had this idea for this game that was maybe kind of like that, it's like Stardew Valley, but it's all cats. Like, okay, but I could do that on my social media. That's not a business thing. Like, so when you're ready to actually start talking about your game, when you have ideas, when you are looking for input on stuff, when you have assets and stuff like that, I think that's kind of the point to do it. And like, you want to do it pretty early on, but you also want to be able to keep talking about it because you need to be posting on your social media regularly, or else your audience bleeds. So make sure that you have enough to talk about to keep talking about it. And you can do stuff like make a calendar and every day, write, for the next 3 months, write, every other day I want to be posting on my social media account. Okay, go in for those 3 months and fill out what you're going to be talking about on every other day. If you run out after the first week, it might be too early. But you can set those kind of things fairly early on and plan like far in advance enough to, figure out when that ideal time to start talking would be. Yeah.
How many social media accounts should you create?
Well, one per platform. And I mean, some places don't do social media accounts for their games. They just have a studio account and they talk about all their games on the studio account. So it depends on, how many games you have and what kind of audience base you have. Because when you create a new page, you're again starting at zero. So you're gonna have to build up that audience from zero as soon as you build it. Now, maybe you can pull people from your main account, but it's gonna be a lot less.
Right.
So.
I also wanted to say that, certain websites and social media, they have a limit to how long the handle can be.
Yep.
Right? So, I have a sort of, studio name or whatever you want to call it, that was just too long for Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Could you like live without one social media page?
I would just shorten the handle.
For each website and having a following on each.
So different people.
On Facebook and the other half is on Twitter.
You're gonna get crossover pretty much on. If people really like your thing, you're gonna get crossover on like multiple accounts. You're not necessarily gonna get the same audience on both though. If you have a handle that's too long, shorten the handle. It costs nothing to create a Twitter account, so why wouldn't you? I think is what it gets down to. Like, these places are free. So little that you're going to be doing is free. Use it. Yeah.
If you're brand new, either as a developer or as a company, and
Yep.
you have no online presence
Yep.
as a developer or as a company, I mean, the answer to this question is probably really long, but like short version, what are some things you could do initially to get some eyes on your account and create it?
Now you can do social media buying. Now the one thing I might warn on that is that you will get an influx of people, but those people, like a good portion of those people drop off right away. If you're not talking about things that interest them. So do you have other people that can help boost your signal? Do you have, I'm trying to think of like what else? Like it's usually, are you a part of a lot of other Discords that you can pull into yours because you think that other people will be interested in the thing that you're doing? Like Reddit. So I don't go on Reddit a lot because I find it terrifying, but a lot of people use a lot of Reddit, and you can do stuff in Reddit. You have to be careful about self-promotion, but you can kind of use Reddit in like a roundabout way to figure out where the type of community that you want for your thing exists. It's not super easy if you're starting from absolutely nothing, but like there are ways to do it, and it's making connections with people to be able to pull them like into your thing. So does that make sense? Like I could talk about it like further. I think I'm maybe like more in depth in person, but like it's finding the communities, pulling them into your community.
Kind of like
Yeah.
to tag along with
Yeah.
your answer. So Aesthetician Labs is like we started our company, and one of the big things for us was like the rock game dev community was really supportive
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
Twitter and Discord, and like the people that we knew in person were a huge help in kind of bolstering our signal.
Absolutely. Like you know people, even if they're not necessarily interested in your thing, like ask all your friends and family to follow your thing and like spread the word. It's like everyone you know is potentially someone who can get the word out. So just keep trying to meet people, and like again, like if you're involved in communities and stuff like that, communities are really supportive of that kind of thing. So like be like, hey, I'd super appreciate it if everyone here could follow my thing. Would you mind? I'll follow your thing. Like make it a thing where everyone is supporting everyone else. Is a place to start, and then from there you start like going more and more and more. So it's maybe little steps to bigger steps kind of thing. Yeah.
So this is coming up. What are there specific platforms or like mediums you can go that are best for like keep like Rock Game Fest is coming up? What's a good way to keep those people who express interest at the Game Fest interested like online, like email?
Yeah, you can make mail lists, and so I find with mail lists, they're particularly good because those are the people that you know are already interested in your thing. So whatever you're saying, they've signed up for it. You haven't signed them up for it. They have wrote their email address, so like you have to assume that they want to know. If they don't, they'll unsubscribe. But I think starting up on email lists is, especially like from the early conceptions, is a really good idea because they're going to be kind of your biggest supporters right at the start. And they want to know about your updates, and they want to know like what's going on and how close you're getting to launching a game, and all the weird inside stuff that you do in the background that like some people are like, that's boring, where they're really like, oh, that's awesome. So yeah, they're kind of like your base. But yeah, the email list, I'm a big fan. Yeah.
If people on the stream or people who are going to watch this in the archive want to ask you some of these one-on-one questions that
Yeah.
we alluded to, where can people find you on social media, like platforms? Where can people access you?
So I'm specifically, if you want to talk about Yakuza or Majima, you can find me. I'm at Evolve Shields is my account. My DMs are open as well, so if anyone messages me, it'll come to me.
And are you on the Rock Game Dev Discord?
I am. I don't know what my name is on that, and I don't know if I want to open Discord with this presenting, but yeah, I'm on there. I think I'm like C Money or something. But if anyone just like yells in there, I know Rob at least knows what my handle.
You just post it in general.
Okay, I'll do that afterwards. Yes.
You updated your Twitter handle. It's up.
I did. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is an old presentation. I'm upgraded. You can find me there.
I noticed that before I came here, I tried looking you up and it was just gone.
See, I thought that would redirect, but I guess not.
Website is
Okay.
under construction.
Oh, okay. That's me. That's right.
I also wanted to ask, if, let's say hypothetically, this is unlikely to happen, but if, should you create the social media accounts, the subreddits and all that stuff
Yeah.
before somebody else does?
You just make an official account. It's like you kind of can't do anything. I mean, a lot of these social media platforms have ways that you can report accounts and things like that, and like there's links that you can just say contact support, report account, and then it'll give you like a drop down of why you're reporting them.
And getting verified?
Yeah, good luck. Getting verified is an absolute mystery that will never be solved. That blue check mark is elusive. I couldn't even tell you.
Okay. I think with that,
Yeah.
let's move into one-on-ones.
Cool.
If you haven't already, or even if you have, please get more pizza and soda. We have plenty. Yeah. Thank you
Cool.
so much, Chris.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, should I not have done that? Sorry. I apologize.